I think that most people don't truly appreciate the scale of Stellaris. In fact, I don't think that even the goddamn developers understand just the sheer amount of stuff that each thing represents. If you watch my videos, then you'll know that I like to focus on details that most people just wouldn't give a singular shit about. And because of that, I think that most people don't really think about what they are playing around with. Or maybe they are, and I'm just doing this meme again, as I do so often. Whatever. Point being, Stellaris is massive, and I'm going to tell you why it is massive. Starting off with the visual representation of space objects. Now, this aspect of the scale of the game is a little odd and doesn't really fit into explaining why Stellaris is big, or rather why Stellaris empires are big. In fact, it proves the opposite, but still, it relates to scale in the game to some degree, so I think I'll mention it here at the beginning. So, given that Stellaris is a video game, it'll have textures to its stuff. And naturally, given that it's a space game, all of the planets and stars and ships are in one place. The scale of them, however, is all off, which makes sense, as making everything to scale would be a little hard, given that, you know, planets are very tiny compared to stars, and ships also. So they make it bigger, it makes it more concise, it makes it smaller and more manageable, but as a result it gives you the wrong impression of how big everything really is. And this impression happens without you, or hell even me at the beginning, really noticing. For an example, stars and planets. Now planets, both gas giants and rocky ones, don't seem that much smaller than the star that they are orbiting. Sure, they look smaller quite a bit, but a size 30 planet doesn't look that off when compared to a star, like size-wise. Same goes for gas giants. They are smaller, but they're not that different. They're quite comparable, even if, in reality, that isn't the case. Planets like Earth look like a speck of dust when compared to a star, for example our Sun. Same goes for gas giants, which are like tiny little marbles. And same goes for spaceships, by the way. When compared to a planet, a regular corvette or a frigate look like they're the size of half a continent, which obviously is not accurate, because we are not building an entire goddamn Elder Craft world here. We are building small, beginning game ships that can carry a few weapons around. And although the scale of Stellaris ships isn't exactly given, because the developers haven't really given us a scale and we can only speculate on how big they are, given that regular modern-day satellites and even the ISS are like comparing bacterium to an orange when compared to Earth, it is safe to assume that corvettes are pretty much invisible when compared to a regular-sized rocky planet. In my opinion, and this is only an assumption, the only ship classes that would be even visible when put next to a planet would be the Colossi, the Juggernauts, and maybe even the Titans. So you know that massive fleet you have in the late game that blocks the light from an entire star when put together in one place, and that looks like a ginormous carpet? Well, in reality, from the standard observation point above a star system, there'd be at best a few tiny dots, or literally just invisible. Just really puts to scale how small your empire really is when compared to just regular space objects. And this scale thing applies to literally everything in space, like asteroids, comets, star bases, kilo structures, hell, even Dyson spheres, which you'd think would be to scale when, you know, they are literally covering an entire star. Same with Rimworld. However, I'd say that they're actually way thinner than they're represented, and I'm just basing that off of their alloy cost. You know, just they cannot be as thick. That would take an enormous amount of resources. Still though, as insignificant as your empire may seem, it is still absolutely massive when compared to our modern-day civilization. Now, measuring anything accurately in Stellaris is an exercise in insanity. The developers haven't really given us a scale, really, and attempting to measure literally anything yourself is a complete mess. For an example, what the fuck is a city district? Is it just a very big city like New York or New Mexico? That's what I thought originally, but it probably isn't. The amount of districts you can build is dictated by the planet size, which, by the way, is the closest thing we have to a lifeline when it comes to the measurement of anything, as Earth, under normal circumstances, is size 18, and we know how big Earth is. Or rather, how big its surface area is, as that's what we're actually using to build the city districts on. So, if you build a city district on Earth, it's actually a bunch of cities, big or small, covering 1/18 of Earth's surface area, right? Well, not exactly. Unless you're also building floating cities on the oceans, because the planet size is the same for ocean or desert or tundra or continental worlds on the star system map. And if you completely cover a desert world in city districts, almost the entire dark side of the planet is covered in lights. So unless you have an aquatic species where the cities can be and probably are just underwater, you'll have floating cities, as desert planets would just have more district capacity otherwise. Except, even if you fill up Earth with city districts, there are no city lights on the oceans. Given this information, I have two paths in front of me to take here when it comes to just estimating the size of a district. Either I can spiral down further, speculating on what the planet size number really means, or I can just be charitable and save myself the effort and just say that the developers didn't bother with this completely unimportant part of the game, because nobody would give a shit. Let's just say there are floating cities. It's the 2200s, okay? We have that technology. So that's, in not so short, what a city district is. Same goes for all the other districts, by the way. They're just dedicated to the production of different resources. This is also why, by the way, building a single city district in the very, very early game is a bit of a struggle. Even in a civilization 200 years in the future from ours, it is a costly endeavor. Same with buildings to an extent, which, by the way, have to be absolutely massive. The lowest level buildings provide an equal amount of jobs as an entire city district fully specialized in producing the same resource, which, by the way, as mentioned previously, are absolutely massive in and of themselves. Like, that is not just a basic factory, that is some advanced shit, and no doubt makes a bunch of jobs outside the building itself. I can't, even imagine how the Fallen Empire buildings must be. They must be unimaginably big, or just non-Euclidean, whatever. They have some advanced stuff there. Armies are also a little confusing to most people. What are they, besides circles you plot down on enemy planets? Well, I don't know if this is the case now, as I can't find anything about it, and I am not generating a bunch of Stellaris galaxies over and over again to find out. But basically, in older versions of the game, you can find Earth, which could spawn in humanity in various stages of development, including extinct. And the primitive armies that spawn with them each have names, like the Soviet Red Army, or the United States Army, and so on. That's what the circles are, assuming that this is still how primitive Earth's armies work. The defensive armies, at least. A sci-fi equivalent of an entire goddamn major nation's army. The assault armies are definitely smaller, as they are weaker than defensive armies, although that may just be because the defense armies are probably just fortified. But it's no doubt also because assault armies had to fit into a transport ship. This kind of leaves the size of an assault army up to interpretation, or just your imagination, but now at least it kind of puts it into scale, and it also makes sense why an entire army costs 1/5 of an entire city district, which are massive, as I said before. You're paying for everything: the infantry, the armor, the missiles, the artillery, the air force, and probably even a navy, all able to pack themselves up into a spaceship of undetermined size and invade an entire planet. It puts into perspective both how powerful a Cybrex warform has to be, as well as what you're actually doing when you plop down 300 armies onto a single planet. That has to be so many people. And also, by the way, you know the people who mod ground combat in order to have circles with specialized roles and stuff? Those people are all dumb, because you don't need specialized roles. All of the thing that is necessary for an army to function are within that circle already. It's just very big, you just don't notice it. Lastly, let me attempt to even come close to estimating how many individual people are in 100 pops, because 100 pops is the smallest unit that actually matters. I don't even know where to start with this, if I'm going to be honest. Stellaris has gone through so many versions of this, and I don't think that the Earth method that I used before is going to work here, because A pop isn't just a bunch of people in one place doing a job. It's a collection of people, probably spread throughout the entire planet, necessary to produce a certain amount of product of some type that are also divided by species and political ideology. This mouthful of a definition makes it very hard to calculate anything here, and that is without mentioning that within these pops are people doing other jobs necessary for maintaining those which produce resources for you, like doctors, garbage men, plumbers, software engineers, construction workers, YouTubers, necessary people that have to be there and are there in the background but aren't displayed as a job, because that would be too micromanaging to deal with. Also, the number is no doubt influenced by the species, its traits, whether it's a hive mind or not, and probably even the goddamn species portraits, as, if you look at them, some are supposed to be way bigger than others. So, given all of these factors, how am I going to get a number here? And my answer to that is that I am not. I am sorry, I don't even know where I'd square this circle. Before 4.0, I sort of estimated that one pop, which is 100 pops now, is around 300 to 500 million people. The source is that I made it the fuck up, and it's valid here, because I don't know what else to give you, I am sorry. The only way to even get a concrete number here is for the Stellaris developers to give it to us. And as much as I'd like that to happen, I honestly just don't trust them anymore. Keep in mind, these are the same developers that overlook very important gameplay stuff in every update. Just think back to the Paragons DLC, or even the start of 4.0. They broke so much stuff, and given that they overlook and break important gameplay features regularly, details like this will be more than just ruined and or forgotten. I mean, hell, some building descriptions don't even say what the building does anymore. So honestly, they should probably just keep the number a mystery, because I bet you that if they released a number, an official number, they'd say something stupid, like 100 pops equals 1 million people, regardless of the development of the planet, or the species, or its traits, and they'll just ruin everything, and they'll not fix it ever, because they have more pressing issues to deal with. They are absolutely the type of people to do something like that. Okay, post-production Uitra Quasar here. This video was largely recorded before the 4.3 update, and a lot of the stuff that they did in the 4.3 update increased my opinion and my faith in the Stellaris developers by quite a bit, so my arguments from before are a little weaker, but they still stand. I'm supposed to do an outro here, and honestly I don't even know what to say here. This is the first video that I actually wrote a script for, except the outro. The outro here just says, outro, go nuts, me. That's what I have written here, whatever. If you've been wondering that the reason my videos suck in the past is because of a lack of script, then that is partially probably true. If this is better, then tell me. If not, then whatever. Probably also doesn't help, I'm currently recording this in the middle of a forest. Luckily it's not the middle of the night anymore, like in a previous video. Whatever, that's about it. More videos incoming very late because I'm busy. Goodbye.